Now, if you're like me, you do not believe that what happened in Utah to Charlie Kirk was the act of just one individual in the know. You believe that more than one person was involved. I think most people generally agree that the trans boyfriend of the individual currently in custody, at the very minimum, knew it was going to happen and said nothing. But if you're like me, you believe they were deeply involved in the planning and perhaps even in the carrying out of said crime. There are other groups that obviously had prior knowledge that we need to have questions on. Dan Bongino has talked about, look, there's, looks like, how do these people know ahead of time? And, well, this may find you may be shocked when I tell you this, but Charlie Kirk's suspect, his trans lover, has now disappeared, moved out overnight, emptying his apartment, and nobody knows where he is. What a coincidence. My fear is that this clown was offered some sort of protection from the government in exchange for testimony. It seems to be more right by the minute. Let's look at this story, by the way. Huge shout out, by the way. I couldn't do what I do without my partnership with Meta PCs. If you use my promo code, The Quartering, if you're in the market, you can custom build. They have ready to ship PCs, custom PCs, laptops, financing, military discounts. They don't give a crap about cancel culture. It's the only computer I use. Maggie uses, it's the laptop I use. It's friends and family. My mom has a Meta PC. So I hope that if you're in the market for PC, head on over to their website, link in the description, and you can always just use the chat function in the lower right-hand corner and get an idea of what you need and tell them The Quartering sent you. Now, Charlie Kirk suspect's trans lover has vanished. Shaken neighbors share fresh new fears as new photos show abandoned home. The trans boyfriend of Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin has fled their former love nest, and locals tell the Daily Mail they never want to see him again. Well, it's probably because they believe, as I believe, he was involved in this. They believe, like I believe, that he was involved in the planning and probably execution of this. Lance Twiggs, 22, was led away for questioning when police swooped in on the smart 3-bedroom condo he shared with Tyler Robinson. Shaken neighbors say the part-time plumber had not been back to the $320,000 property in St. George, Utah, one declaring, "Good riddance. I never want to see either of them again." His beaten-up Infiniti Compact is still parked in his space with his work gear tossed across the back seat, though, and a sandwich wrapper and a drink on the front passenger seat. So he abandoned his car. This isn't sending any alarm bells to anybody out there. Nobody's like, that's odd. He just disappeared, left his car behind, left everything else behind. Upstairs lights have been left on for more than a week, and notes and Amazon packages are piling up outside the home owned by Twiggs' devout Mormon family. If he ever comes back, it'll be in a body bag, a neighbor grimly predicted. That's not a threat. I'm just saying there are so many people who want a piece of him, he'd be mad to show his face in public again. Based? Based? Okay. This was a generational event. Twiggs, of course, has not been charged with any crime, but speculation has raged over what, if anything, he knew about Robinson's warped plot to assassinate firebrand Charlie Kirk at the September 10th campus event in Utah Valley University. Thus far, there's been no evidence to suggest the nerdish recluse who was in the process of transitioning from male to female is anything but cooperating human source. As a significant and essential witness in a major criminal inquiry, Twiggs could qualify for federal witness protection. See, this is what I'm afraid of. My fear is that he was part of this, and the federal government is giving him a pass in exchange for his testimony. I don't want him to have a pass. The evidence is overwhelming. What are we even doing here? What are we even talking about here? Witness protection. What? No. The source was not able to confirm whether or not Twiggs had accepted protection from law enforcement. It looks like he did. His insurance broker dad, Tyler Twiggs, and former college gymnast mom, Amy, live 5 miles away but have not commented on his whereabouts. The couple have 3 more kids, and Tyler is the son of prominent pediatrician Jerry Twiggs, 72, who owns multiple homes and lodges around St. George, an upscale desert city close to Mount Zion National Park. Twiggs was not in handcuffs when he was led away from his apartment in the wake of Robinson's September 12th arrest, an eyewitness told Daily Mail. Instead, local law enforcement gently sat him down on the ground while sniffer dogs combed the apartment for any kind of devices before the FBI arrived to conduct a full search of the property in his Fossil Hills apartment complex. He was wearing a white t-shirt and sweatpants. He just sat on the step and said the FBI are going to be here soon to ask you some questions. That's not a beat-up car. That seems like a pretty nice car. Why would you call that beat up? That sounds like a rich person wrote that. That's a clean car. It's not beat up at all. He's driving an Infiniti too, which is a nice car. Manual transmission, probably a fun car to drive. You know, all of his tools abandoned, his work gear. It's pretty odd that his car is still there, isn't it? It's pretty odd that his car and all of his work equipment are still the brand new, sitting in the parking lot left behind, isn't it? He didn't say anything, no emotion at all. Tyler and Lance were super reclusive. They just look like 2 guys to me. Robinson faces the death penalty if found guilty. Again, in a lengthy text exchange between Robinson and Twiggs, we already know that the 2 were involved, or that he had, set up these text messages, in my opinion, to try and absolve his trans boyfriend of any guilt or connection with the crime that I am sure he knew that was going to happen. I just knew it. A third roommate moved out of the Swish complex, which boasts a pool, a hot tub, and a gym, leaving Robinson and Twiggs, who became romantically involved, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care about their degeneracy. Let's go on to this other article here. FBI looking at, quote, who may have aided and abetted Charlie Kirk's assassin. Well, how about Twiggs, who's disappeared and he abandoned his car and everything like that? FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino says he believes Tyler Robinson, the accused killer of Charlie Kirk, may have been aided and abetted by an extended network, citing multiple warning signs Robinson allegedly displayed before the crime. Investigators are already examining whether pro-trans online groups, members of these furry community, and other associates of Robinson had advanced knowledge of his plans. Those groups included communities on the gaming platform Steam and Armed Queers SLC, which removed its Instagram account following Kirk's assassination. Why? That's totally normal behavior, isn't it? Isn't that totally normal behavior for somebody that had nothing to do with the crime and was just simply cooperating with the police? I mean, what is going on here? Why is this kid not in custody? Literally. Bongino now says federal investigators are widening their scope, looking at whether others in the crowd, including the TikTok user who was questioning Kirk at the moment he was shot, might have had prior awareness of the incident, so they may have been working together. Bongino told Fox News host Bill Hemmer that agents are looking into whether the tragic assassination of Kirk, a 31-year-old conservative icon, married dad, father of 2, and co-founder of Turning Point USA, was part of a larger effort that may have involved other people who were providing even financial help, or someone who knew the specifics of it and failed to report on that. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not totally sure what, the law says about your duty to report crimes. I don't know if knowing about a crime and not reporting it is something that you can be charged with. I genuinely don't know that answer. He says, we'll be dropping a lot of paper, a lot of subpoenas out there, and look to see if there's any extended network. Bongino added, suspect Tyler Robinson, who lives in trans boyfriend, was also was arrested 33 hours later. A lot of people talking about the 33 thing. When asked if the timing of the gunfire, which occurred as Kirk was fielding a question about these type of events, was significant, FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said, we're investigating that. I don't want to say conclusively now if there was a connection or not, Bongino added. It's not terribly uncommon for Kirk to get questions like that. However, we are looking into it. I think that's a fair response. You know, a lot of people do ask him questions like that, but it's also fair to say it was pretty coincidental. That was a pretty big coinky-dink that was the question that was being asked at the time of the crime. You know, were they working together? I don't know, because to me, the working together thing seems unlikely based on just that alone, because how could he know for sure that he was going to be able to ask that question? I don't know how turning point events work, but I imagine you get in line and a lot of people don't get to ask their questions. So it seems like hinging your whole plan on that guy being able to ask that question at that time seems unlikely. Hemmer asked the FBI's #2 official about a conversation between Robinson and a relative at a recent family gathering where they expressed their shared dislike for Kirk. There appear to be some multiple warning signs about Robinson losing control of his emotions, Bongino said. You just laid out some of them. There were people in his network, friends and family, who have stated that he'd become more political. Uncertainty remains over how and when Robinson became radicalized. Investigators discovered inscriptions on unspent shell casings of the firearm, a relative of Robinson's roommate, who is cooperating with investigators and is not accused of any wrongdoing, told authorities that they believe Robinson's political views may have been shaped by that relationship. Of course, he was radicalized by his boyfriend. Can be no doubt whatsoever about that. That's not up for debate. You know, that's a very obvious thing here. That happens in a lot of relationships. You know, I have a lot of guy friends that suddenly became liberal when they met a liberal girl who, you know, was loose or something like that. You know, I just think this whole thing is very, very suspicious. I'm going to continue to report on it. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you haven't yet. Subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.